Is Concord the most misunderstood city in the entire East Bay? Well, in this video, I'm going to be unpacking what it is truly like to live in Concord. You probably clicked on this video because you fall into one of two camps. You're either considering moving to the San Francisco Bay Area, but you're not sure if you want to live in the city and you've heard some amazing things about the East Bay, or you already live here and you're considering a move out to the suburbs. Well, in this video, I'm going to be breaking down everything from lifestyle, community, parks, downtown, youth activities, youth sports, the reality of the school system and how locals navigate it. And I've got two things that I'm saving for the end that most people don't know about Concord but should. I'm Adam Dobrinich, the #1 relocation real estate agent for the East Bay. I've been helping families make the move to the East Bay for nearly 20 years. What works, what doesn't, how to navigate it the right way. And if you're considering making the move to Concord, this video you don't want to miss. Let's jump in and check it out. All right, let's get started. So Concord is really defined by a strong family-oriented community, but also has a great balance of like a suburban rhythm with a little bit of grittiness. It's a place where neighbors frequently get to know each other and is often thought of as a spacious, more affordable alternative to some of the neighboring cities. But there are definitely some things that we need to know, and especially as it compares to some of these neighboring cities. But let's start off with the lifestyle. Concord is really anchored by Todos Santos Plaza, which is really the social and cultural heart of Concord. This is where a lot of events are hosted throughout the year. This is kind of one of the main gathering areas within Concord. There's lots of great restaurants here, lots of diverse restaurants, and effectively serves as the downtown hub for Concord. As a regular gathering place for residents and families, Todos Santos Plaza has a weekly farmers market. They do concert series there during the year. It's kind of the anchor for the July 4th parade and festival, holiday tree lighting ceremonies, and of course we have to call out the taco trail that Concord is so well known for. And even though that's not directly tied to Todos Santos Plaza, it is something that we have to call out because all of the things that I've talked about so far are really what helps bring the community together, kind of help anchor that tight-knit feel that the city of Concord has, despite being a spread out city with lots of different neighborhoods and lots of diversity. The residents and families of Concord really gravitate to these events that really brings the community together. And that leads me into talking a little bit about the entertainment and the shopping that Concord has. So Concord really has an awesome mix of kind of more modern retail shopping centers combined with nostalgic entertainment. And so starting with the Veranda. So the Veranda is what I happen to call Downtown 2.0. It's a newer shopping plaza that was built a few years ago that has lots of different retail shopping and also tons of restaurants. It's also a place where the residents of Concord like to gather. They have a beautiful fountain play area for kids. They also host events there as well during the year, like the ice rink during the winter time. And aside from the shopping, the restaurants, and the activities, there's also a large movie theater there where you can catch the latest movies. The Veranda really is that kind of secondary downtown hub like Todos Santos Plaza. And so within Concord, you really have these sort of two downtown areas, and they're both fantastic and have a lot to offer for the community and for the residents for totally different reasons and for totally different vibes. But again, it really helps bring the community together. And then you have the Sunvalley Shopping Mall. Now, the Sunvalley Shopping Mall has been around a very long time. It's a very traditional indoor mall. It is also one of the largest malls in the region, which offers you even more retail shopping. There are lots of dining options in there as well. There is a huge arcade for kids, which we're going to talk about some youth activities for Concord here in just a second. But there is a large arcade, there's a bowling alley. So the Sunvalley Mall is also another easy option, for the residents of Concord. And then lastly, you have the West Wind Solano Drive-In Movie Theater. Now, but this is a long-standing favorite and really kind of gives you that throwback, unique, old-time movie experience. And again, the community loves it. So that is definitely one thing that when people are thinking about or moving to Concord, having something like that where you get a little bit of a different experience is something that the community really loves. All right, let's shift gears and talk about the family and youth activities, because the Concord lifestyle is heavily geared towards families and they have a wide range of activities for both youths and teens. All right, so starting with Hurricane Harbor. Hurricane Harbor is an amazing water park that, throughout the summer, where families from all over come to bring their kids and spend the day, on the water slides and, and in the water park. But certainly for the community and the residents of Concord, Hurricane Harbor is certainly a favorite throughout the summer season. And then you also have the Pixieland Amusement Park. Now, this is really geared towards younger kids, but is kind of like a traditional amusement park with lots of rides. They have very small roller coasters, cars that kids can ride in, Ferris wheel, things along those lines. But like I said, it is geared a little bit more towards younger kids because the rides are, on the smaller side. But that is favorite throughout the year for family and kids to go to spend a weekend day. So, between Hurricane Harbor and Pixieland, Concord really has some really fantastic options for use in teens. And I certainly don't want to leave out that throughout the city of Concord, you have, spray parks, lots of parks, playgrounds for kids to use. And they always seem to be busy throughout the week with young kids and parents. And then on the weekends, certainly it's a great activity where a lot of families like to go gather with other families, do the playgrounds, picnics, birthday parties, all of those kinds of things. So, if that's the type of community that you're looking for, I have found that that's one thing that as clients reach out to me and they're curious about Concord and they just really don't know what the vibe and the atmosphere is like, that once they understand it and they see all of these activities happening on a daily and weekly basis throughout the city at the parks and these recreational areas, that's what really gives them that family-friendly, tight-knit community feel. Now, continuing on with the family and youth activities, I also want to touch on the sports and recreational facilities that Concord has and that families have access, starting with the Willow Pass Community Park. Now, the Willow Pass Community Park actually happens to have one of the largest dedicated pickleball facilities in all of Northern California. So if you're into pickleball, if you're into kind of the new craze around pickleball, or you're curious about it, you're going to have that in Concord. And so that's something that's really cool. But the community park is also anchored with sports fields, playgrounds, open space areas. And again, it's just one of these areas within Concord that you are going to see a lot of people gathering. That's where you're going to see a lot of the sporting events, for your kids happening. It is one of those places within Concord that you really feel tied to the community. And then additional amenities throughout the city, aside from the Willow Pass Community Park, is there are skate parks, swim centers, other recreational areas. So there's just a lot to do throughout the city in Concord, and especially if you're looking for areas and activities, for your kids. The other thing that Concord is really well known for and is wonderful for the community is its outdoor recreation. And so Concord has access to lots of different outdoor areas, whether that's Mount Diablo State Park, where people go hiking, biking, camping. It's wonderful views that you have of the entire Bay Area from the top of Mount Diablo. And the folks of Concord and the neighboring communities go there, every single weekend to really, enjoy and be in nature. But on a much smaller scale, Concord's access to open spaces like the Lime Ridge Open Space or trails like the Contra Costa Canal Trail or the Iron Horse Trail really gives local residents and families the opportunity to get outdoors, but on not as big of a scale as like Mount Diablo, where it's a bit more of a, kind of a day-long experience. So if you're just kind of looking to get out for a bike ride, do some hiking, get the dog out, or just enjoy being in nature, Lime Ridge Open Space is one of the most popular in all of Concord. And then the Contra Costa Canal Trail and the Iron Horse Trail are actually paved trails, which again, people like to just get out, do their daily morning jog, get the dog out for a walk, take their kids out for a bike ride on these trails. And that's one of the most amazing things about Concord is its access to, these outdoor spaces and these trails. Now, the last one that I want to talk about is the Markham Nature Park and Arboretum. This is actually another thing that's kind of considered a hidden gem amongst folks that live in Concord. It's a very quiet, peaceful setting. There's a large plant collection, wisteria arbor. It's just a beautiful, beautiful area that's great to, take your family out or take your significant other for just kind of a, quiet, peaceful walk in nature. And that's just, something that I wanted to call out as far as a sort of outdoor area for folks to go and get out and sort of enjoy and be in nature. All right, so as I just touched on, some of the sports fields at the Willow Pass Community Center, I want to talk a little bit about the youth sports culture within Concord, because youth sports are a major part of community life and part of Concord's identity as well. The city is actually really well known for for having some fantastic programs like a wrestling program, gymnastics program, of course, just the general recreational youth sports like baseball, soccer. Soccer is a very popular one, as well as baseball within Concord. And it's highly encouraged for kids to participate with all skill levels, all ages. And so if that's something that you're looking to get your kids into, they're just trying out sports for a first time, or, they're highly engaged or highly involved, and you're moving to Concord, the programs within Concord are the exact things that you would be looking for in any of those situations. So just calling out a couple of the kind of primary organizations, by no stretch of the imagination is this an exhaustive list, but I just want to, kind of call out a couple of examples of, some of the, the sports organizations that Concord has. So I'll start with the Community Youth Center. So the Community Youth Center is a nonprofit that is a development hub for ages, call it 3 through 18, and they primarily focus on wrestling, martial arts, and gymnastics. And a lot of kids love to participate in these activities. It's a great way to get the energy out for the kids and that kind of things, begin to learn some skills, begin to learn some body control and things like that. And because it's focused on affordability and accessibility, it's actually kind of known as one of Concord's sort of hidden gems when it comes to youth sports and organization. Then you have the Concord Little League for baseball, as well as the Concord AYSO for soccer. So the Little League offers programs for both, baseball and softball, a range of ages, but it is very much a big part of, Concord life for families and kids if you have kids that are playing those sports. And then the AYSO for the soccer, another program now, the soccer program supports more than just Concord. It's Concord, Walnut Creek, and Clayton that, kids will, feed into, from various areas. But it's a great program and great, organization for both recreational and competitive travel teams as well. So again, if you're looking to get your kids, exposed to sports, or they're already playing, Concord definitely has very well-known organizations in place that would be great for your kids. Now, the last thing I will touch on for the sports is there are some advanced training facilities as well in Concord. So if your child, is a little bit more advanced in the sports that they're playing and they're looking for a little bit more of that sort of advanced training, Concord has a number of different facilities for that. Just to name a few, I'm not going to go into, detail, but you have the Stealth Sports Center, you have the facility, and the Ultimate Sports Connection. So those are just a couple of examples. All right, let's shift gears and let's start talking about the schools, because this is, one of the topics that I get asked about the most. And as I always say in all of my videos, when it comes to schools, us real estate agents aren't allowed to comment too much, but I do want to give you a lay of the land. However, I do encourage you, as I always do, to do your own due diligence. Use the resources available to you, resources like niche.com, Neighborhood Scout, greatschools.org. They are fantastic resources that give you a lot of information about school ratings, school rankings, programs that happen at those schools, give you a good overview of the schools. But I want to give you some of the knowledge that has been shared with me over the years from families that have lived there, that I've helped move there, and provided me feedback over time. And so, hopefully this kind of gives you, sort of some, just kind of a little bit of insider information, so to speak. So let's start with a quick overview. So Concord is supported by the Mount Diablo Unified School District, and across the school district, there's almost 30,000 students. It supports, kindergarten all the way through 12th grade. Depending upon the area and depending upon the school rating is, going to change. So there really isn't kind of a sort of homogeneous school rating, across the entire, district or across the entire schools that support the city of Concord and its families. And this is kind of one of the two main call outs I want to have. Is the reality is a lot of people think that the schools in Concord are considered subpar, especially when you're comparing them to schools of the neighboring cities and towns and communities. But the reality is that it's very neighborhood dependent and it's very school dependent. There are schools within Concord that have higher ratings that you would, sometimes see in some of the neighboring cities. And then of course there are lower rated schools as well. But that's the reality, is it is actually highly variable, and it is really not across the board that all the schools in Concord are a lower rating or more subpar, especially when you're comparing it to some of the neighboring cities. So let's dive into some of the strengths. So one of the things that people like about the schools within Concord is that you get a lot of diversity, and this will be cultural diversity as well as socioeconomic diversity that exposes their kids to more like real world type of environments. Now, that might not be for everybody, but so the feedback that I have received, from families and parents and clients that I've worked with is that they have found that to be a real asset for their family and is one of the things that they've called out as a strength of the school system in Concord. Now, with one of the main drivers for moving to Concord being, affordability, another strength which we've already spoken about is that within Concord, there are pockets of, schools all the way from elementary to, high school where you can find that higher rated school experience. So if you do focus on buying in those pockets or in those neighborhoods within Concord, you can find that your kids will be able to access some of the more top performing schools within the city and within the district. And then lastly, especially as you get into some of the later education, meaning, more like the high school years, the schools do offer some really great programs. These would be programs like engineering or STEM programs, like arts and music programs. And so that's one thing that I have found that families are pleasantly surprised by. And of course, these programs are also outside of just the general, public school program, where you can find these like after school programs that allow kids to focus on arts, culture, music, or engineering and STEM, or, things even like architecture and design. So there are a lot of programs in and around Concord, whether it's directly through the public school system or, these sort of outside programs. So you don't have to go far for those things. Now, the last thing that I'd like to highlight, kind of going to put this here between sort of the strengths and some of the challenges of the Concord school system, so that I'm giving you the full spectrum of what to expect within the school system. But the academic performance within Concord really kind of falls in sort of the middle of the pack when it comes to comparing it to the state of California. So as I mentioned, Concord perhaps has an undue reputation for having subpar education, or that the schools are not considered quite as good as some of the neighboring cities. But the academic performance kind of falls in line with sort of the middle of the pack within the state of California. I always tell my clients that it really depends on the type of experience and the type of education that you want your kids and your family to receive. Like I said, do your own due diligence and see what works well for your family. Okay, so let's talk about some of the challenges for the school system within Concord. So as I called out as kind of one of the strengths, that you can find pockets within the city and certain neighborhoods that feed into some of the more high performing schools that you might find are similar to your expectations for what you've heard about some of the neighboring cities. But that can also fall into the challenge bucket, because there are some neighborhoods and pockets within Concord where the school rating is below average. So it's really going to be dependent on the neighborhoods that you're looking in, as well as sort of the resources that you're looking for, or programs available to the kids, depending upon which school that they're in or which campus that they're at. And this is why clients who are thinking about moving to the area call me to work with me, is because they want some of the guidance of which neighborhoods they should be looking in, depending upon their goal, depending upon the price point that they have in mind for buying a home. So again, if you're not really sure where to start, or you want to just kind of have a real in-depth conversation about your specific scenario, your specific goals, definitely do not hesitate to call me, set up a time. I do answer all of my own phone calls, emails, text messages. I'd love to be a resource for you and help you with your buying needs. As I mentioned, I'm #1 relocation agent here for the East Bay. Kind of continuing down that line with the challenges is that, depending upon which school that you're at, the programs and the resources that might be available within those schools might be different than other schools in other areas or cities nearby. And I think that that's one of the challenges that I hear, is that families can notice that some schools have so many more resources and programs than others. So it really kind of creates that sort of have and have not type of feeling. So depending upon what you're looking for your family, you definitely want to be on the lookout for that. So what do locals actually do when it comes to the schools? If you have younger kids, usually what I have seen families do is they try to identify neighborhoods to live in and purchase a home where they feed into some of the more highly ranked elementary schools within the city, and just sort of leave that as their anchor for the moment, whether that means they're going to potentially move in 5 or 7 years when the kids get into some of the older years, but at least at minimum start them off with an educational foundation in the higher rated schools. But again, that's really going to depend on what you're looking for, what type of experience that you want your kids to have. And now the last thing that I will touch on as it relates to schools is, if you are just starting a family, let's say you have a newborn or you're planning planning to start a family soon, where, you know, the elementary school is not quite on your radar yet, or it's a few years down the road, but you are thinking about childcare, you know, Concord has a plethora of options when it comes to, you know, childcare, and they certainly range in price point from more affordable options to, you know, ones that are a bit more expensive. And again, it'll depend on what you're looking for, it'll depend on what's around you, but there are a lot of different options. There's, you know, even Montessori daycares, there's in-home daycares, and of course you have the public preschools and things like that. So, but the main thing that I will call out for childcare is, depending upon which school you end up at or which facility you're looking at, there can be a wait list. So that's something that you want to look at early, identify which childcare spaces you are okay with, get on the wait list, and then start looking, you know, for homes in, you know, in those areas. But that's something that you definitely don't want to leave to the last minute, especially if you've identified one that you would really like your kids to go to. All right, we have come to the end of the video. As I mentioned, there are two things that I want to share that most people don't know about Concord, but really should before they move here. And I've touched on both of them already, but I want to directly call these out. First, regarding the schools, the main thing is that there is just sort of this general idea that all the schools are subpar in Concord, and that is not the case. It really is dependent on the neighborhood that you are looking in and what schools feed into those neighborhoods, and depending upon what you are looking for your family, you definitely want to do your due diligence and assess that. But as I mentioned, in talking with families, talking with parents, working with clients who have moved there, a lot of them are pleasantly surprised at the options that they have, which run counter to the perception of Concord. Now, the other thing that I really want to communicate about Concord that most people don't know but should is that, but because it is the biggest, largest city in all of Contra Costa County, that it is really spread out and people feel isolated, and that is not the case. There are a lot of very family-friendly, very tight-knit communities throughout Contra Costa County, and even in the neighboring cities to Concord, whether that's Pleasant Hill, Martinez, Walnut Creek, which all have great reputations for being, you know, tight-knit, family-friendly communities. Concord does not have that reputation. However, I think that most people find once they move there that it is one of the most tight-knit, family-friendly communities. The city does an amazing job hosting events throughout the year that bring the community together, and the general lifestyle of Concord, where people are spending a lot of time outdoors, whether it's at the parks, that it's at these community centers, whether it's on the ball fields, and then of course all the events that are happening. You know, you really find that Concord is a place where you do get to know your neighbor, you do feel a part of a community despite it being, you know, a bigger city. And that's kind of the other main call out that I have, where people don't necessarily know what to expect. All right, so that is everything that I have for you, what life is like living in Concord. I hope you found this video helpful. Again, my name is Adam Dobrinich. I am #1 relocation real estate agent here for the East Bay. Please do not hesitate to reach out. Again, my number is popping up below. I do answer all of my own phone calls, emails, text messages. You will get me on the phone. I would love to help you in any way that I can. And if you just want to jump on a call, there's no pressure, no rush. We just have a very simple, direct conversation about you, your scenario, what you are looking for. Perhaps I can provide some suggestions for you, things to look at, things to have on your radar. And of course, if you're looking to buy a home, I would love to help you with that. So again, with that being said, I hope you found the video helpful. Have a great day, have a great week, and I'll catch you on the next video.